obligatory readjustments now. I fucking hate this. I feel like I should sing you a song. I've already swore, but I'm just going to sort of breathe into the microphone so you can't hear anything and give you a couple of minutes to read this. That's blinding light. I can't see a fucking one of you. I swear quite a lot. It's my fault, not yours. You're only listening. But I realise that some people don't really like swearing, so this is probably not the talk for you. You may as well just... Doors are at the back there. It's, get an early night or something. Yeah, so I'm going to swear at you for a bit, just because I fucking can, because there's a big fucking light pointing at me. But, yeah, I've sort of done one of these before, and I talked about a book I did on the miners' strike. And it was good, it was fun. It wasn't in a big room like this with big lights and lots of people. But I'm going to sort of ramble. I'm just fucking wincing here. Right. Let's go. I'm really uncomfortable because I hate this fucking pew thing. It's like some sort of religious fucking sermon. And if any of you read the news today, you know it's not really good to be in this kind of position, is it? So that's why I'm feeling very uncomfortable. So I'm just going to fucking rattle on and then we can all hit the fucking booze. So, I'm Craig. I have a sort of schizophrenic existence. I sort of run my own gig called the Office of Craig because I'm that creative. I can't think of a better name than that, which is my own name. I'm hardly fucking Prince, am I? I keep fucking... And, but I mean, I generally just operate as this kind of graphic designer, doing all that kind of mundane shit that graphic designers have to do. Dicking around in fucking branding and shit like that. It's work, for fuck's sake. Let's not pretend it's anything it isn't. It's work. And I also we do a lot of books. We do a lot of exhibition design and stuff like that, which is Terry's fault. I've got to mention Terry. He's shaking his head at me now because he hates me. Because it's your fault that we do a lot of that. Terry used to work for me and he whinged that he wanted to do exhibition design. So I got some exhibition briefs in, he did one and then fucked off somewhere else. And now I'm just stuck doing all these fucking designs for exhibitions I didn't want to do in the first place. But he's a lovely lad. Sorry. And Rough Terrain Books, is over there. There's Nina, my partner in crime, behind a desk, full of books, really good books actually, so, get over there. And... it's sort of been going about a year now, I think. Nina told me today. And it is just trying to sort of do something different in the world of publishing. So that's kind of our remit, really. Through working with amazing people who haven't... Maybe they've got an idea and they want to do something, but they can't find the right place for it. Or people keep saying, that's great, but I'm not fucking going near it. We are the people you should come to if you have those kind of thoughts. But, this is one of them, which... is an idea I had, which I sort of sat on for a long, long time, because I thought if I told anybody, they wouldn't let me home from my pyjamas, I'd be in the asylum for the rest of my life. But Nina didn't laugh, and I've had lots of people sort of support me through it, and this is Epiphany Editions. So I am going to talk about one of these books, which is the latest one, but it's actually an idea for a series of books, which I'll try and explain it to you in the best I can, because it gets a bit fucking meta. But essentially, the idea is to create a series of books that don't exist. They are fictional books that appear in films as props, as kind of super props, where a character or a certain scene, a book appears, and then suddenly the film completely changes. And we wanted to make those books for real. So I'm sure you've all sort of seen films where these things happen. I mean, the ones up there is sort of Beetlejuice on the far side, then Donnie Darko, The Shining, and then Mandy, which came out last year. And they're all kind of films where something happens when this sort of printed artifact comes into the world of that film, of course. And we wanted to give them to you, to the real fucking world. So the first one is actually on John Carpenters' They Live. Now, if I could see your hands, which I can't, I'd ask who's fucking seen it, but I don't know. So I'm just going to pretend some of you have, or the least amount of you have, and some of you probably haven't. I ain't got a fucking clue what I'm on about. If you are one of those people, I'm very fucking envious of you, because I fucking love this film. I mean, it's as shit as this poster looks. And I'm just going to sort of play you a little clip where you sort of essentially the epiphany moment in the film where this book appears. Just, if you like sunglasses, this is for you.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
The lizards are among us. So that's just a clip from the film where the protagonist, who is a former pro wrestler called Rowdy Roddy Piper. He's 30 years old. It was released in 1988, so it's the 30th anniversary essentially. And this is the sort of clip, the still from the movie, and this is what the actual book looks like. So they're designed as essentially replica props from these films. And the reason for that is, I mean, beyond sort of doing something that feels to me as a fucking film nerd, just something I really wanted to have, like an artifact from that kind of world that embodies that spirit. But to celebrate the fact that these films have a sort of life of their own, that they not only draw on culture, on the time that they are made, and they draw on their politics and the sort of the world around them, and then they go out into the world, and it's complete unknown. When a film comes out, who knows what it's going to do? Who knows what impact it's going to have on all of us, or what things it's going to change, or where it's going to sort of go on its journey. And I love that, because a lot of films, they have this sort of weird culture around them. And this was definitely one of them. So the initial sort of book, as I said, it starts as a replica where we, got as fucking serious typographically anal shit going on. I'm trying to find these fucking things. Or just trace them. We just cheated half the time, I'll be honest with you. But what I want to talk about essentially is, we even found the fucking spread, which, if any of you are into production design, the production designer on this film, he actually chopped up, he must have been a lazy fucker. He just bought 2 separate magazines and fucking glued them together, basically. So it's like Time magazine on the left, and then something like Scientific American on the right. He thought, that'll fucking do. But the reason I love this film, it's not just because I wanted to do this, and I thought it was a nice idea. There's a lot of rich stuff going on in this film, and that's kind of what interests me about it so much. Yeah, I love John Carpenter. Yeah, I think it's really fucking shit and 80s and kind of action, bullshit, B-movie sci-fi, and I love that shit. But there's a lot going on, and it's actually a really pertinent and valuable kind of film that we need right now. And I'm just going to sort of talk about a couple of the sort of threads that we've pulled out of this film to sort of show you the culture that it drew on, but also the impact that it's had. And the first one is, obviously, the commands are sort of a really striking visual sort of aesthetic that drives the whole film. These subliminal commands that are being pumped out to us for all kinds of media by these aliens, who are called ghouls in the film, who I'll get to in a minute. But these commands draw on sort of conceptual art from the 50s and 60s. Obviously, Barbara Kruger, her work, very consumerist, very sort of, a really sort of pared back aesthetic. That's a drawn, but there was other artists such as Guerrilla Girls, of course, that were operating before the film started in like 85. It was coming out in 88. But most of all, Jenny Holzer and her work, mainly because of where she used to put her work. And the idea of conceptual art was always that it should just be an idea, to get rid of the artifact and the object. Completely in line with what the film is sort of trying to say. Why are we buying all this shit that we don't need, that we don't want? This sort of, romanticism of the object and the artifact, which is art, essentially. And they draw on that, but I think it's not a coincidence that all these artists were female, and I'm going to get on that as well. But when you see these sort of scenes in the film, and then you see Jenny Holzer's work from the same time and before, I think it's a really kind of obvious kind of distinction to make, that those commands in the film are also commands in our real world, really, that sort of just plant seeds in his head that we think about, only completely different ends of the scale. After the film, of course, it's had another kind of massive impact on Shepard Fairey. Shepard Fairey contributed to the book. He wrote an essay basically on how much he just fucking loved the film. And he was quite open about where he stole Obey from. And he was just, basically a student when he came out, and there's a lovely story in there about him essentially like cutting out all these fucking Andre the Giant as a posse stickers in his bedroom. And he just used to say he'd just put albums on, or he'd watch skate videos, or he'd put They Live on. And he sort of loved the idea of the commands, and that's where that whole thing comes from. The fact that he was just really interested in, can you just trigger people? And sort of if Obey, Obey the Giant on the left there, if that's his most negative piece, then his most positive piece is Hope. So just to fucking throw that out there, I find it really interesting that he's rendered him, Obama, in the same colours as the alien. It's just, just like that. Who knows? That is not, we have not stopped getting political, so I'll warn you. If you're a Tory, leave the room. This man was in power in America at the time and before the film Ronald Reagan, who was America's Thatcher, basically. This fucking cowboy. And I'd just like to draw your attention, essentially, to the two badges, and if you can read the statements underneath them. The one in the middle is from 1979 and 80, when he ran for the presidency for the first time, which says, "Let's make America great again." And "Keep America Great" was when he was re-elected in 84. And in the 80s, John Carpenter, the director, that's what he wanted to combat. He hated the idea of Reaganism and everything that he stood for. Reaganomics, which is his policy of trickle-down economics, essentially. Oh yeah, let's give let's give the rich tax relief, and they'll just fucking share the money. I've never met a person in my fucking life who is expecting a $5 back. If you go to that fucking bar, give him a tenner expecting a $5 back, and if they give you a tenner back, your first thought's not, I'm a $5 up, I'll share it, is it? He thought they'd fucking do that. You're a fucking idiot. And Carpenter didn't like this kind of politics. It was all about withdrawing government. He was a big believer that government was too big. It doesn't need to look after people. People can look after themselves. Let's withdraw all that kind of stuff. Let's make it really lean, and let's just make people rich. So it's absolutely no coincidence. I mean, every fucking president since this film's been out has been rendered like this, by the way. And all of those things, Trump is just resurrecting Reagan's policies now. You've seen it, he's shutting up shop everywhere. He's, protectionist in the United States. All he wants to do is make people richer, most likely himself. And that's just one of the ideas in this film that runs throughout. On the surface of it, why I think this film needs a sort of reappraisal and why this book exists. And the reason that they look like that isn't just a sort of, a nice little sci-fi kind of trope. How can we make a cool-looking alien with fucking silver eyes? The makeup artist you can see in the middle is called Frank. And, his idea was, well, it's all about greed. Let's make them look like rotting humans. And I love that there's all these tiny little ideas that you don't even have to sort of think about within the film. But that is an idea. That's a creative sort of execution that actually let's embody these fucking yuppies, everything we hate, which with a very serious danger that could become us, that if we accept the greed, because all they're doing in this film, the really scary thing about this film is not that they're going to fucking try to lull us into a sleep so they can eat us or anything shit like that. They just want us to give them money. That's all they want, and that's probably even more terrifying that we sign up to it, and they're just recruiting humans. So that very notion, I think, is really interesting, really political. It also does a lot to kind of subvert a lot of the popular ideas in Hollywood and popular ideas in film about like the origins of where the hero should come from. This is a scene when the hero who wanders into town, the wrestler who I showed you with the glasses, and the only place he can find any shelter is on a sort of this shanty town, essentially. And it's a tiny, tiny, tiny little scene in the film where his sort of buddy on the left there, the two fucking backpacks wandering away in the middle. On the left, Frank, he just says, come to Justiceville. You can get, food and hot showers. And it's just this sea of homeless people and working poor. And, that you could just let this thing go. But Justiceville was a real place in LA. And it was clubbed together by a bunch of homeless people who tried to sort of get together a collective to share their money, to pool their resources and their knowledge, and to educate people and get people off drugs, to try and reintegrate them into a society that was essentially turning their back on them, Reagan's policy. And they managed to get this site, which was an old kids' playground, for $1 a month. And they created this community. And the LA police were literally ordered to bulldoze it once a month, which they did. And that happens again in the film. The site is cleared. I'm just spoiling the fucking film for you, by the way. But it was set up by this guy called Ted Hughes, who was a sort of preacher, but he was also an activist campaigner, and he did lots and lots of stuff. He's a really interesting bloke. I find it really fucking weird. He's got some sunglasses on his chest. But he got rewarded by this character in the film, who's the preacher, who's your kind of classic archetype sort of, blind preacher who can see. It's the 80s, folks. And that idea of homelessness, it's everywhere. Working poor, people who, are working 3-4 jobs just to try and eat, just to try and find shelter. We're living in, temporary accommodation. It's with us now for lots of fucking reasons. And I think, the film is really interesting because of that. And how it portrays women. John Carpenter is, he's been operating since the sort of, mid-60s, and you can check through his sort of back catalogue. Every single film, if a woman isn't the lead character, they have strong female characters within it. And it's really bizarre. I mean, he's most known for Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis, or, The Fog, which is Adrienne Barbeau. But there's strong characters in all of his films throughout. Perhaps only The One Isn't the Thing, but I don't know, who knows, maybe the dog's female. But this is Meg Foster, and Meg has quite a small sort of role in the film, but it's really, really important, and it's actually really fucking subversive. Because in the film, in 80s, all you saw, and all you see now really, is if you watch any kind of action film where fucking people are on fucking horseback or fucking corralling in a fucking car chase, it's always men, always men. And John Carpenter didn't like that, and more so, they were always invincible. You watch any fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger film, one punch, they never fucking get up. That's it, isn't it? It's like they've fucking vanished. And he just didn't like that. And I think that's part of what the character that he does with this. And she serves the purpose in the film. She just completely undermines the main character the whole way through it. Tells him he's fucking stupid. he makes up these half-assed plans and she just pokes all the holes in them. And there's a great line in it where he's trying to get her to put the sunglasses on, saying, have a look, you'll see. And don't you understand? And she's like, no, I understand. You're telling me you're fighting the forces of evil that nobody can see without some fucking sunglasses. And then she throws him out of a window. It's a great film. But, there's so many subliminal ideas in there about unpicking all that kind of hyper-masculinity, that kind of toxic stuff. I mean, one of the best fucking lines ever, I'm sorry, I will do this shit. Like, Leslie was talking about, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. These were the only fucking blokes that were allowed in action films in the 80s. One writer once said that Arnold Schwarzenegger looked like a fucking condom filled with hazelnuts. But that was not, that was the sort of toxic thing that they were pumping out to us through film. This is what men should be like. This is what men should look like. Lo and behold, in the 80s, there's a massive fucking gym craze, and everybody's fucking pumping iron in the mirror, giving it that one in the trunks. And this film just completely unpicks it and shows you how fucking stupid and vain it all is. Mainly through this. It is the longest fucking fight in film history. If you've seen the film, you'll know what I mean. I mean, it's around 6 minutes, which doesn't sound that long, but it fucking feels like 6 hours. Honestly. And that's because there's an idea in it. There's a fucking subliminal idea. It's like that. This is the same thing that makes this fight good is the same thing that makes that fight at the end of Bridget Jones good. That's how fucking blokes fight. They're not Jackie Chan, do you know what I mean? Two blokes outside pub. It's not one kick and they're gone. Roundhouse, floor. Nah, it's not real. And the same with these two really big guys going at it. But they stop, they get out of breath, they laugh at each other, they start talking, and then they just keep carrying on. It's just the most bumbling fucking action that you've ever seen in an action film. But there's a point to it. There's loads of ways you can read this film, this fight within the film. Loads of people say it's about sort of, it's about gender, which it could be, but there's also, like in American politics and American history, it's a white man trying to tell a black man who's oppressing him. And there's a lot of ideas in that as well, which is, obviously in America, quite a hot subject. But it just serves to undermine the action hero, because he strolls in there and he gets his ass kicked, and he bleeds, and he's bruised, and he limps, and he hasn't got a plan. And he comes from a different background to any other action hero you ever see. So, as I said, the book is a replica. John Carpenter, the director, wrote the foreword for it, and he talked about why he wanted to make this film, about why he loved shit sort of B-movies from the 50s and how they could actually tell a story. And I think that's what I really love about what he says and why I love film in general, particularly kind of genre filmmaking, is we need a filter to sort of look through to see the fucking world as it is. It's really hard to talk about a lot of these subjects. It's really hard to talk about fucking homelessness and sort of why people are dying. And film gives us a sort of an entertaining filter to sort of look at those things through. So you can see this film as a fucking bullshit action sci-fi film from the 80s. And it is, and you can enjoy it for 90 minutes of that. But you can also dig a little bit deeper, and you can see what it says about society that we're all part of still 30 years on. And I think that's really interesting. And a lot of the contributors that had something to, they all sort of picked up on that. As I said, I mentioned Shepard Fairey before, he did a piece in there. John Grant as well, the musician, he wrote about John Carpenter's music and about how that's as much a character in the film as anything else, even though he fucking hates it, which is quite funny actually. But I mean, if you've ever listened to John Carpenter's music, he's probably more famous now for his music than he is his films, but a lad I used to work with called it doom synth. If you like electronic music that gives you the impression that someone's about to come behind you and slit your throat, you'll love his work. We also involved Brandalism, who are a sort of ad hacking collective, a bunch of street artists who go around and they change advertising in the public realm and put up their own stuff. And they talked essentially about how this film has inspired like thousands of street artists to sort of get out there. There's also a piece from the philosopher Slavoj Zizek, who is, if you don't know him, is just fucking bonkers. And he just talks about the fight. That's it. That's all he's interested in. Why are they scrapping? And he's like, it's about ideology. Freedom is painful. Heavy salad. as Terry would say. Yes, Terry, you. So I'm just going to sort of just show you a few spreads from it, really, and then I'll fuck off. The sort of book... I'm supposed to talk about the design of it, aren't I? Sorry. But... I'll get back to you. We designed it as a replica prop, but obviously you only see fucking 4 pages in the fucking thing. So what the hell are we going to do? So it's about trying to sort of capture an aesthetic of what it was, you know, the intention, and sort of give the film's presence over in a kind of printed form that might do it justice. So there's a lot of, I mean, it's a magazine technically, so I'm trying to design a book that behaves like a magazine, but it's still a book, and using a lot of sort of high gloss material, and then all the contributors are on sort of a really high white gloss, and then when I get into a piece talking about those sort of bigger issues like feminism, or about sort of the politics and the time, it switches to black, which is again that playing with the film's aesthetic. When you put the glasses on, everything's black and white. Off, everything's colour. It's a bit like a reverse Wizard of Oz. And all of these things. And there's a lot of sort of political kind of material in there in the sections. There's a lot of research and film kind of artifacts and memorabilia from how they sort of built those kind of aliens and their kind of world. There's also a massive section on media and how we're controlled by that. I mean, this, as I said, and keep fucking saying to you, it was made 30 years ago. No fucking internet, no Twitter, none of that bollocks. So TV gets it in the fucking neck in this film. But, you know, it basically predicts binge watching. And, you know, we're all fucking guilty of that, aren't we? Sat there in a state of undress, generally, if you're me. But, and we also released a sort of special edition, and again, it was just about every single thing in the design of this book has to have a reason. I just can't work any other way, because I hate those moments where someone goes, oh, that's really nice, what did you do that for? And your only answer is, what, it kind of looks nice. I hate that, it kind of drives me fucking mad. My nana used to grill me for shit like that. But, so every kind of choice we made, a creative choice, comes from that world. So we did a special edition of the film. This is a scene where he finds this in a church, and in all these cardboard boxes are all the sunglasses, which he nicks and runs off with one. So the special edition comes in a cardboard wrap, which comes out. It also has, I didn't show you this far on the film, but you know the vendor who was at the fucking news stand, all the money says, this is your God, on it. So there's a sort of certificate with the number on there and a lenticular bookmark, essentially, at the same dimensions, so that does the ad thing. And again, like every idea, as simple as we can, to just sort of plant you in that world. You can't really fucking see it, but that's the point. It's got subliminal messages written all the way throughout it, which are printed in a kind of gloss UV, so you have to really kind of strain your bastard eyes to see the thing. But there's another level there for you to actually engage with the book and try and find out what it's talking about. We also had a stupid idea. When they get towards the end of the film, when they break into the fucking aliens and they're going for them, all the sort of commands start to go bilingual, and they sort of say things like this, and it's just this sort of weird glyph. So, being a knobhead, I worked with a designer called Tim Donaldson, who took essentially artistic leap from that, and we created a typeface. And in the book there's an essay which is written completely in this alien typeface, including all the page numbers, all the navigation, all the captions. They're all in the ghoul's language. And we've got some... Before tonight, we've just sort of let people try and work that out, which, if you have the patience and a lot of fucking paper, you can start to sort of decode this if you see the patterns. But we've got some special prints tonight. Here we go, the big pimp, where there's a link where if you buy the print, you can download the font with the thing and you can decode it all yourself. But again, that just comes from the film. And the last thing is, it smells like bubblegum. We printed with a scented ink throughout the book. Oh, you laugh. It fucking does. Get your nostrils over there. And that is for this reason.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
So I'll just leave you with that.